cave began to rumble. First came a deep thunder, echoing through the stone walls like a stampede and shaking our bones. Then a sharp static filled my eyes with bursts of black and white. Harry felt it too. His flashlight beam shaking and falling as he squeezed his eyes shut, trying to filter out the white noise vision. What was that? What? I shouted, trying to filter his voice through the noise. The noise. Don't know, I answered, reaching for my radio strapped to my belt. I called in for backup, but only got more static in return. We had gone too deep in the cave. We gotta go back. Wait, shh. Harry cut me off. In the fading sting in our ears, we heard it again. A more familiar sound, one that brought us here in the first place. The unfortunate whimper and sniffle of a child. That's her. Harry began to move deeper in, his pace picking up with urgency. Hey, stay where you are. We're coming to get you. Wait, what if it was an animal? I hesitantly followed behind him, my flashlight beam trailing along the low ceiling while he pointed forward. Haven't seen any real signs of an animal. Let's just keep going. I think she hid somewhere in the cave. Hey, can you tell me your name? How deep are you? Suddenly he stopped. I collided into him, bouncing off his side and hitting the side of my head against the rock with a wet crack. Fuck. Shit, dude. Sorry, here's a wall. Let me check your head. I turned and shone my light to where he was facing. A dead end. How could we have reached a dead end without finding the girl? No cutoffs, no side chambers. We'd been in here for almost half an hour. Only a one-way passage. We cursed under our breaths and began to scan the walls. Pain from the impact ached on the side of my skull. Hey, let me check. Harry nodded towards my head. I bent down to let him shine his light around me. No blood, you're good. Harry, look. Beneath us was an opening in the cave. Only 10 or 11 inches high. Tight for us, but enough for a child to squeeze through. I got down on my stomach and shone my light across. There she was, just 5 or 6 feet away. Her shoes and the top of her ankle faced towards us. As the beam of my light hit her, she began to cry. Hey, don't worry. We found you. Do you think you can crawl back? Suddenly she turned. Her cry was at full panicked volume, but her pace was slow and calm as she disappeared further in. I shouted after her, my head and arms scraping against the sharp sides of the stones. Fuck. She went deeper in. Hey, come back! Radio isn't working, Harry said, squatting above me. Do you think we can squeeze through? I took off my reflective vest and tossed it in the corner. Exhaling all the air out of my chest, I began to push my head through, only a half inch of space above and beneath me. If I could fit, that meant he could fit. Yeah, I'm going through. I grunted as I began to lie flat and wiggle my way inside the passage. One arm was in front of me, pointing the light forward, and one was behind me. As one arm pulled, the other one pushed, and I began to ache my way through the gap. Not the best position, and not the best idea. We weren't the cave team. We were just supposed to comb our section of the forest. I felt a stone underneath me scrape along the side of my cheek, cutting it, but I kept moving. The important thing was that we had found the child, and getting her out was a priority. If we left to get the cave guys, it might take too long before we returned. She had already been here for days. My short, shallow breaths started sucking in loose dust and dirt, squeezing my chest painfully outwards against the sharp edges of the ground beneath me. I was afraid that if I coughed, my ribs would break under the pressure. My head bounced roughly against the ceiling and ground as I tried to wiggle as fast as I could. A few feet felt like a mile. Behind me, I could feel Harry enter the gap after me, already catching up to me as I struggled to clear the next few feet. I should have let him go in first. Then came another roar. My skull felt it first, the rumbling shake of the ground, and the tight position I was in made my body vibrate like a gong. I clenched my teeth as I tried to hold my breath, feeling as if the ceiling was about to collapse on me. Between the burst of thunder and pain, I heard shouting. Harry cursed behind me as he tried to push me forward, screaming at me to move. I kept crawling, inching forward with my eyes squeezed shut until I felt my arm reach out into open air. I tossed my light to the side and began to pull myself out, reaching back in and pulling Harry out behind me. You good? You okay? I gave him a thumbs up as he handed me my light. I think that was an earthquake. Fuck. I don't want to get flattened down there. You go first next time. Then I'll send the kid through and... I shone my light back onto the wall to see nothing. There was no wall, no gap. My light shone into the endless dark spiraling tunnel until it faded into nothing. Harry, no answer. Hallucination. I must have suffered a concussion when I bashed my skull against the rock earlier. I reached out to touch the space where the rock wall had stood a moment ago, and my hand fell through into thin air. My light sweeping across the curved rock walls as it kept going, turning far off into the distance. Harry, what the fuck? I grabbed his shoulder and tried to get him to turn around, but his eyes were fixed forward, his face scrunched and squinted in confusion. I turned slowly towards where his eyes were locked. A door. It sat in the center of the cave tunnel, its wooden frame splintered under the weight pressed between the ceiling and floor. Written across the worn wood were letters I couldn't read, old Asian symbols, hanging paper talismans, and faded white ribbon paper wrapped it tightly closed. Her cry came from the other side, running past the door, but there was nothing behind it. The wrappings and tunnel only continued as far as our eyes could see. Do you think... Harry began to reach out towards the door. No. The doorknob began to vibrate as his hand drew near, the wood itself shaking excitedly to finally be opened. The talismans and wrappings tore effortlessly as he turned the knob open and walked inside. He turned to me, mouthing words, but no sound came out. I shouted for him to come back, but he couldn't hear me either. Blood began to run from his nose, then his eyes, ears, and mouth, but he felt none of it. He turned away from me, his eyes scanning the tunnel around him with awe and shock as he kept going further in. Without thinking, I came in after him, reaching out to pull him back. But I was at home again. Not my home, the messy two-room apartment, but my childhood home. The front door closed behind me. It was locked when I tried to open it again. I tried to call out to Harry, to the child, but no one answered. Around me was a low hum, a chant, and my radio began to buzz. Loud interference between what sounded like a news broadcast. Breaking news this evening. Authorities have confirmed the discovery of the remains belonging to the parents of missing 8-year-old Xin Yi. The bodies were found earlier this morning on the outskirts of Winters Bay National Forest, in what investigators are describing as a possible ritualistic or cult-related killing. Search efforts continue for Xin Yi and 2 missing rescue officers, though officials admit hopes of finding them alive are fading after a week of unsuccessful operations. Authorities are urging the public to stay away from the forested area while the investigation continues. More updates as this story develops. It seems like you should have gone back and gotten help after all. You shouldn't have opened that door, Parker. You shouldn't have opened that door, Parker. You shouldn't have opened that door, Parker. You shouldn't have opened that door. I threw the radio against the ground, shattering it as the broadcast kept repeating. The humming chant grew louder. Low vibrations became words. Words I knew, words to a language I used to be able to speak. I knew where it was coming from. A single talisman hung in the center of the door to our kitchen. My father sat facing the wall like he used to. He looked tired, drained, maybe half his weight from when I last saw him a decade ago. His face wrinkled, eyes sunken, an incomplete shell of himself, and I couldn't make myself feel sad for him. He said something to me in our native language. I was ashamed to answer him. I knew what he said, but I had long forgotten the words to respond. All I could offer him was a low, regretful, "I'm sorry." In one moment I looked down at him, a grown man looking down on his sick father, and in the next I looked up at him. He smiled, how he used to smile, how I wished he would smile, reaching out a hand and running it through my hair. He seemed proud of me. I hope he was. I never got to ask. Then he turned me around, the smell of sweet and decay slowly entering my nose. Where our Buddha statue once sat was one of a slender, gaunt figure, its arms clasped forward with twisted hands. Either begging or beckoning, I couldn't tell. Its long, bone-thin legs twisted around its body as it sat crisscross, long tendril-like wings spread out behind it, creating an almost beautiful display of blooming petals and stiff, locked fingers. A centipede wrapped around and coiled along its entire frame. Religious protective talismans bound its face, covering it tightly. My father spoke to me once more. A knife slid into my small hands, a rabbit lying on the table before me.